let's get the comments pinned. Thank you for putting those there, Sean. Go live and vertical and pinned. Hi, Quantum. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, YouTube. Hello. Let's adjust that. Okay. Wonderful. Yes. As ever, if anyone from my loverly Twitch community has the capacity and wishes to, you know, help a little bit, if you're able to open up the YouTube stream, even just dropping a lurk over there, that really helps with accruing the watch hours that I need to hopefully, in the not too distant future, hopefully this year, unlock the YouTube Partner Program. So that would be awesome. Hi, Buddha and Artax. Now, reminder that I am using a new multi-streaming software, and it does not come with a built-in multi-chat, and that is a thing I still need to sort out. And because of that, I am needing to literally look over at the other screens, so sorry about that. If I'm a little worse than usual at seeing YouTube chat. But yeah. Although I should be able, actually, hold on. Pop out chat, copy URL, pop back in chat, then go to custom browser doc, new one, apply. Okay. Now I've got YouTube vertical, at least, in OBS. I don't think I can have both of the YouTube chat. It's just, I don't know if my OBS has room for it all. But at least the vertical one tends to be more active. Okay, now they're both at least in front of me. We're making things work. And we are picking up where we left off a couple days ago with TikTok of Oz. You just subbed on YouTube. Thank you, Rose. I really appreciate that. Oh my goodness. Clicking on your profile pic brings up vertical first. Really? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, if you go actually to my channel and like click on the live tab, then you'll have a choice. And I will say horizontal, like you get then, it's the exact same canvas being pushed out as with Twitch, so you'll see everything that Twitch will see, except for like the built-in things like the emote celebrations and stuff, like those things you'll only see on Twitch. But yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's get going. And reminder that we are playing Wizard of Oz Bingo here. And that's not what here we go. This is what I'm looking for. Nope, because I need to open Canva. Context for anyone who has been out of the loop. I've been experiencing a lot of tech issues and my computer has been crashing and restarting a lot. And so I will think in my ADHD brain, I'll be like, I went down the checklist, I opened all the programs that I need to open. But then my computer crashes and then I forget that I need to reopen them. Also, sorry for the dropped frames there. It's because I opened Canva. This is what I mean. I'm looking into upgrading my PC. So that is a thing I'm doing. Okay. You need your barcolepsy emote over here. Okay, let's... There we go. There we go. Let me just resize it. Oh my god. Yes. Memberships is going to be part of the... Sorry. Jeez. I'm trying to resize the... Memberships is part of the first level of the YouTube partner program that can be unlocked. What the heck? Oh, I think I need to... Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Just resizing things because, again, every time it closes. Oh my god. It has been a time. Jesus. She wouldn't want that emote anyway. Well, we'll see. We'll talk, but yeah, no. Hi, Lulu. And Scott the Sloth, thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. We are looking at... Okay. Anyway, wait, I have to go here. There we go. There we go. Christ. Thanks for your patience, you guys. It should take more RAM than Photoshop. Wait, it shouldn't? Oh, Canva? I think... Yeah. It shouldn't make my PC drag so much, but it does. The point is, we're getting close. There's a few bingos. This one here, we're within 2. This one, vertically, we're within 2. This one at the bottom, horizontally, we're within 2. This diagonal, we're within 2. So we've got a few options that we just need to tick off 2 more and we'll get a bingo. So that's pretty exciting. Weekend was alright. It was, you know what, it's been very stressful with all the tech issues, but hopefully it seems we're making progress. We're making some progress. I feel like my lighting looks weird. Anyone else? Like I look more like cool toned or like I'm underwater or something, like a little more blue? I don't know. But Mr. Ware and Malum and Elle, thank you all for being over on YouTube. You know what? Fuck it. Let's get the horizontal YouTube chat also into OBS. Just so that I can have it, and hopefully by next stream we will have a widget that combines it all for me. The really annoying thing about YouTube, though, is that, so on Twitch, your chat URL is the same every single time. But on YouTube, you get a new chat URL every single time that you book a stream. And so you can't just have like a steady YouTube chat doc because it changes URL with every stream that you schedule. So, not ideal. Okay. Dang. There we go. get into, I think we're actually ready to start reading now. Amazing. Amazing. You guys have been so patient and kind and such good help with all these tech issues. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay. Now, wherever you are, wherever you're watching from, there should be a pinned comment in chat with a link if you would like to read along with me, which you can do for absolutely free. You're watching it both horizontal and vertical. Oh, Malum. I mean, look, whichever is more comfortable. I actually don't know if the same user gets counted twice if you're in different chats. Certainly it would count towards like chat metrics if you're talking in both, but I don't know if you get counted as a viewer twice or not. Either way, thank you for the support over on YouTube. Build your own echo. You're watching diagonally. That's the next step. That's the new frontier of streaming. Diagonal streams. Okay, so do you guys remember what happened last time? It was actually weirdly apropos and thematic for our Easter Sunday stream, because the Gnome King got what was coming to him. And by that I mean eggs. I mean a bunch of eggs were magically ensorcelled to follow him everywhere, to drive him out of his own cave and not let him back in. So he is forced to wander the earth instead of being underground. He hates overground, but he's got to be there, wandering, no longer a king. Can't go back to his kingdom, because then he will be hit with the eggs. And the eggs will turn him into dust. Kill him? No, not kill him. Just turn him into dust. And each of the, he's a magical fairy creature. He can't die, but he can be like atomized basically. But each of those specks of him, which will then take to the wind and blow all over the place, never to be, put back together again, will still be alive. So that's pretty messed up. Does that count as Bill the Hen being awesome? I mean, look, it could be argued, but it's more, these weren't Bill's eggs. But he did remember when Bill was there and got him with eggs. So, like, you could stretch it, but Bill hasn't technically been a character in this book so far. Yeah. But now, all eggs. No, these ones came from Tatiti Hoochoo, the Jinjin from the other side of the world. Actually. But yeah. He's gone, but all the gnomes are still there. Including Calico, the advisor, the long-eared hearer, and also General Goff, who's in charge of the whole gnome army. So Queen Anne from Oogaboo, the amount of nonsense words that I have to say to talk about this story. Anne wants to conquer. Will she do it? I guess we'll see. Okay. We are about to start with chapter 19. Well, the chapter title answers that question, actually. Am I even speaking English? No. I'm speaking Balmish. Positively balmy. Chapter 19 is called King Calico. Sorry, Anne. After the king had made good his escape, Files said to the dragon in a sad voice, "Alas, why did you not come before? Because you were sleeping instead of conquering. The lovely Rose Princess has become a fiddle without a bow, while poor Shaggy sits there, a cooing dove." "Don't worry," replied Quox. "Tatiti Hoochoo knows his business, and I had my orders from the great Jinjin himself. Bring the fiddle here and touch it lightly to my pink ribbon. Files obeyed, and at the moment of contact with the ribbon, the Gnome King's charm was broken, and the Rose Princess herself stood before them, as sweet and smiling as ever. Man, I want them to leave the Shaggy Man as a dove. Just leave him like that. The dove, perched on the back of the throne, had seen and heard all this. So, without being told what to do, it flew straight to the dragon and alighted on the ribbon. Next instant, Shaggy was himself again, and Quox said to him grumblingly, "Please get off my left toe, Shaggy Man, and be more particular where you step." "I beg your pardon," replied Shaggy, very glad to resume his natural form. Then he ran to lift the heavy diamond off Tik-Tok's chest and to assist the Clockwork Man to his feet.
"Many thanks," said Tik-Tok. "Where is the wicked king who wanted to melt me in a crucible?"
"He is gone, and gone for good," answered Polychrome, who had managed to squeeze into the room beside the dragon and had witnessed the occurrences with much interest. "But I wonder where Betsy, Bobbin, and Hank can be, and if any harm has befallen them."
"We must search the cavern until we find them,"
declared Shaggy. But when he went to the door leading to the other caverns, he found it shut and barred. Hey, Deep Fried. Hi. And Anthony. Good to see you again. Hello. "I've got a pretty strong push in my forehead," said Quox, "and I believe I can break down that door, even though it's made of solid gold." "Oh, but you're a prisoner, and the chains that hold you are fastened in some other room, so that we cannot release you," Files said anxiously. "Oh, never mind that," returned the dragon. "I've remained a prisoner only because I wish to be one." And with this he stepped forward and burst the stout chains as easily as if they had been threads. But when he tried to push in the heavy metal door, even his mighty strength failed, and after several attempts he gave it up and squatted himself in a corner to think of a better way.
"I'll open the door,"
asserted Tik-Tok, and going to the king's big gong, he pounded upon it until the noise was almost deafening. Now, Calico, in the next cavern, was wondering what had happened to Ruggedo, and if he had escaped the eggs and outwitted the dragon. But when he heard the sound of the gong, which had so often called him into the king's presence, he decided that Ruggedo had been victorious. So he took away the bar, threw open the door, and entered the royal cavern. Great was his astonishment to find the king gone and the enchantments removed from the princess and Shaggy. But the eggs were also gone, and so Calico advanced to the dragon, whom he knew to be Tititi Hoochoo's messenger, and bowed humbly before the beast. "Hi, Rayshawn, welcome back. Good to see you."
"What is your will?"
he inquired. "Where is Betsy?" demanded the dragon.
"Safe, in my own private room,"
said Calico. "Well, go and get her," commanded Quox. So Calico went to Betsy's room and gave 3 raps upon the door. The little girl had been asleep, but she heard the raps and opened the door.
"You may come out now," said Calico. "The king has fled in disgrace, and your friends are asking for you."
So Betsy and Hank returned with the royal chamberlain to the throne cavern, where she was received with great joy by her friends. They told her what had happened to Ruggedo, and she told them how kind Calico had been to her. Quox did not have much to say until the conversation was ended, but then he turned to Calico and said, "Do you suppose you could rule your gnomes better than Ruggedo has done?" Me?
stammered the chamberlain, greatly surprised by the question.
Well, I couldn't be a worse king, I'm sure.
Would the gnomes obey you? Inquired the dragon.
Well, of course, said Calico. They like me better than ever they did Ruggedo.
Then hereafter you shall be the metal monarch, king of the gnomes, and Tititi Hoochoo expects you to rule your kingdom wisely and well, said Quox.
Hooray! Cried Betsy. Oh, I'm glad of that, King Calico.
I salute your majesty and wish you joy in your gloomy old kingdom. Kind of a dick comment there, Betsy. I think this is chapter 19, Rayshawn.
We all wish him joy,
said Polychrome, and then the others made haste to congratulate the new king.
Will you release my dear brother?
Asked Shaggy.
What, the ugly one? Oh, very willingly, replied Calico. Well, I begged Ruggedo long ago to send him away, but he would not do so. I also offered to help your brother to escape, but he would not go.
Oh, he's so conscientious, said Shaggy, highly pleased.
All of our family have noble natures.
Bro, you brainwash people. You've kidnapped several children and a dog. Like, noble natures, really? Also, why are you not upset that he's calling your brother the ugly one? Hi, Christina. Hello. Hello, hello.
But is my dear brother well?
He added anxiously.
He eats and sleeps very steadily, replied the new king.
Well, I hope he doesn't work too hard, said Shaggy.
Well, he doesn't work at all. In fact, there's nothing he can do in these dominions, as well as our gnomes, whose numbers are so great that it worries us to keep them all busy. So your brother has only to amuse himself. Why, it's more like visiting than being a prisoner, asserted Betsy. Well, not exactly, returned Calico. A prisoner cannot go where or when he pleases, and he is not his own master.
Where is my brother now? Inquired Shaggy.
In the Metal Forest.
Where is that?
The Metal Forest is in the great domed cavern, the largest in all our dominions, replied Calico. It is almost like being out of doors. It is so big, and Ruggedo made the wonderful forest to amuse himself, as well as to tire out his hard-working gnomes. All the trees are gold and silver, and the ground is strewn with precious stones. So it is a sort of treasury.
Hi, Duke. Hello.
Well, let us go there at once and rescue my dear brother,
pleaded Shaggy earnestly. Calico hesitated.
Well, I don't believe I can find the way, said he. Ruggedo made 3 secret passages to the Metal Forest, but he changes the location of these passages every week, so that no one can get to the Metal Forest without his permission. However, if we look sharp, we may be able to discover one of these secret ways.
That reminds me to ask what has become of Queen Anne and the officers of Oogaboo, said Files.
I'm sure I can't say, replied Calico.
Do you suppose Ruggedo destroyed them?
Oh, no, I'm quite sure he didn't. Well, they fell into that big pit in the passage, and we put the cover on to keep them there. But when the executioners went to look for them, they had all disappeared from the pit, and we could find no trace of them. That's funny, remarked Betsy thoughtfully. I don't believe Anne knew any magic, or she'd have worked it before. But to disappear like that seems like magic, now doesn't it?
They agreed that it did, but no one could explain the mystery. How has no one thought to look in the pit? Oh my god, okay.
However, said Shaggy, they are gone, that is certain, so we cannot help them or be helped by them. And the important thing just now is to rescue my dear brother from captivity.
Why did they call him the ugly one?
Asked Betsy. Oh, Betsy, don't pull at that thread.
I do not know, confessed Shaggy. Well, I cannot remember his looks very well. It was so long since I've seen him. But all our family are noted for their handsome faces.
Betsy laughed, and Shaggy seemed rather hurt. Yeah, have we already ticked off people being mean for no reason? Yeah, we haven't yet. I think we need to. Yeah, Betsy, you can't just call people ugly. Okay, hold on. Let's bring up this. Okay. Anyone being mean for no reason? Gasp. Because, like, girl, you can't just tell your friends that they're ugly. She's so heartless, the love magnet doesn't... Well, he's not brandishing it right now. Oh, man. It didn't really describe her as being particularly overcome by it, at least not like other characters have been. Maybe she is heartless. Okay. Betsy laughed, and Shaggy seemed rather hurt. But Polychrome relieved his embarrassment by saying softly,
One can be ugly in looks, but lovely in disposition.
Our first task, said Shaggy, a little comforted by this remark, was to find one of those secret passages to the Middle Forest.
True, agreed Calico. So I think I'll assemble the chief gnomes of my kingdom in this throne room and tell them that I am their new king. Then I can ask them to assist us in searching for the secret passages.
That's a good idea, said the dragon, who seemed to be getting sleepy again. Calico went to the big gong and pounded on it, just as Ruggedo used to do. But no one answered the summons.
Well, of course not,
said he, jumping up from the throne where he had seated himself.
That is my call, and I am still the royal chamberlain, and will be until I appoint another in my place.
So he ran out of the room and found Guff and told him to answer the summons of the king's gong. Having returned to the royal cavern, Calico first pounded the gong, and then sat in the throne, wearing Ruggedo's discarded ruby crown and holding in his hand the scepter which Ruggedo had so often thrown at his head. When Guff entered, he was amazed.
Better get out of that throne before old Ruggedo comes back,
he said warningly.
He isn't coming back, and I am now the king of the gnomes, in his stead,
announced Calico.
All of which is quite true,
asserted the dragon, and all of those who stood around the throne bowed respectfully to the new king. Seeing this, Guff also bowed, for he was glad to be rid of such a hard master as Ruggedo. Then Calico, in quite a kingly way, informed Guff that he was appointed the royal chamberlain, and promised not to throw the scepter at his head unless he deserved it. I feel like Guff is already, like, leader of the army. I feel like he should have made, like, the long-eared hearer his chamberlain. Hi, Leonardo. All this being pleasantly arranged, the new chamberlain went away to tell the news to all the gnomes of the underground kingdom, every one of whom would be delighted with the change in kings. Here's a picture of the gnome king yelling at Tik-Tok. Wait, why don't I have my, hold on. Let me window capture. Kindle. There we go. In vertical. I don't know where it disappeared to, but there is the picture. Oy. Here we go. Yep. Hi, Marco. It was a coup and no one's upset about it. Okay. Chapter 20. Quox quietly quits. Oh my god, quiet quitting was a thing back then, too. When the chief gnomes assembled before their new king, they joyfully saluted him and promised to obey his commands. Artax, thank you for the 134 biddies. Thank you. Oh yeah, the old king was an absolute ass, yeah. But when Calico questioned them, none knew the way to the Metal Forest, although all had assisted in its making. So the king instructed them to search carefully for one of the passages and to bring him the news as soon as they had found it. Hi, Blondie. It's good to see you. How are you doing? Meantime, Quox had managed to back out of the rocky corridor and so regain the open air and his old station on the mountainside, and there he lay upon the rocks, sound asleep until the next day. The others of the party were all given as good rooms as the caverns of the gnomes afforded, for King Calico felt that he was indebted to them for his promotion, and was anxious to be as hospitable as he could. Much wonderment had been caused by the absolute disappearance of the 16 officers of Ukabo and their queen. Not a gnome had seen them, nor were they discovered during the search for the passages leading to the Metal Forest. Perhaps no one was unhappy over their loss, but all were curious to know what had become of them. On the next day, when our friends went to visit the dragon, Quox said to them, "I must now bid you goodbye, for my mission here is finished, and I must depart for the other side of the world where I belong." "Will you go through the tube again?" asked Betsy. "To be sure, but it will be a lonely trip this time, with no one to talk to, and I cannot invite any of you to go with me. Therefore, as soon as I slide into the hole, I shall go to sleep, and when I pop out at the other end, I will wake up at home." They thanked the dragon for befriending them and wished him a pleasant journey. Also, they sent their thanks to the great Jinjin, whose just condemnation of Ruggedo had served their interests so well. Then Quox yawned and stretched himself and ambled over to the tube, into which he slid, head foremost, and disappeared. They really felt as if they had lost a friend, for the dragon had been both kind and sociable during their brief acquaintance with him, but they knew it was his duty to return to his own country. So they went back to the caverns to renew the search for the hidden passages that led to the forest. But for 3 days, all efforts to find them proved in vain. It was Polychrome's custom to go every day to the mountain and watch for her father, the rainbow, for she was growing tired with wandering upon the earth and longed to rejoin her sisters in their sky palaces. And on the 3rd day, while she sat motionless upon a point of rock, whom should she see slyly creeping up the mountain but Ruggedo? The former king looked very forlorn. His clothes were soiled and torn, and he had no sandals upon his feet or hat upon his head. Having left his crown and scepter behind when he fled, the old gnome no longer seemed kingly.
but more like a beggarman. Several times had Ruggedo crept up to the mouth of the caverns, only to find the 6 eggs still on guard. He knew quite well that he must accept his fate and become a homeless wanderer. But his chief regret now was that he had neglected to fill his pockets with gold and jewels. He was aware that a wanderer with wealth at his command would fare much better than one who was a pauper. So he still loitered around the caverns wherein he knew so much treasure was stored, hoping for a chance to fill his pockets. That was how he came to recollect the Metal Forest.
"Oh," said he to himself, "I alone know the way to that forest, and once there I can fill my pockets with the finest jewels in all the world."
He glanced at his pockets and was grieved to find them so small. Perhaps they might be enlarged so that they would hold more. He knew of a poor woman who lived in a cottage at the foot of the mountain, so he went to her and begged her to sew pockets all over his robe, paying her with the gift of a diamond ring which he had worn upon his finger. The woman was delighted to possess so valuable a ring, and she sewed as many pockets on Ruggedo's robe as she possibly could. Then he returned up to the mountain, and after gazing cautiously around to make sure he was not observed, he touched a spring in a rock, and it swung slowly backward, disclosing a broad passageway. This he entered, swinging the rock in place behind him. However, Ruggedo had failed to look as carefully as he might have done, for Polychrome was seated only a little distance off, and her clear eyes marked exactly the manner in which Ruggedo had released the hidden spring. So she rose and hurried into the cavern, where she told Calico and her friends of her discovery.
"We have no doubt that that is the way to the Metal Forest," exclaimed Shaggy. "Come, let us follow Ruggedo at once and rescue my poor brother."
They agreed to this, and King Calico called together a band of gnomes to assist them by carrying torches to light their way.
"The Metal Forest has a brilliant light of its own," said he, "but the passage across the valley is likely to be dark."
Polychrome easily found the rock and touched the spring, so in less than an hour after Ruggedo had entered, they were all in the passage and following swiftly after the former king.
"He means to rob the forest, I'm sure," said Calico, "but he will find he is no longer of any account in this kingdom, and I will have my gnomes throw him out."
"Oh, then please throw him as hard as you can," said Betsy.
"For he deserves it. I don't mind an honest, out-and-out enemy who fights square, but changing girls into fiddles and ordering 'em put into slimy caves is mean and tricky, and Ruggedo doesn't deserve any sympathy. But you'll have to let him take as much treasure as he can get in his pockets, Calico." "Yes, the Jinjin said so, but we won't miss it much. Oh, there's more treasure in the Metal Forest than 1,000,000 gnomes could carry in their pockets."
It was not difficult to walk through this passage, especially when the torches lighted the way, so they made good progress. But it proved to be a long distance, and Betsy had tired herself with walking and was seated upon the back of the mule, when the passage made a sharp turn, and a wonderful and glorious light burst upon them. The next moment, they were all standing upon the edge of the marvelous Metal Forest. It lay under another mountain and occupied a great domed cavern, the roof of which was higher than a church steeple. In this space, the industrious gnomes had built, during many years of labor, the most beautiful forest in the world. The trees, trunks, branches, and leaves were all of solid gold, while the bushes and underbrush were formed of filigree silver. virgin pure. The trees towered as high as natural live oaks do, and were of exquisite workmanship. On the ground were thickly strewn precious gems of every hue and size, while here and there among the trees were paths pebbled with cut diamonds of the clearest water. Taken all together, more treasure was gathered in this metal forest than is contained in all the rest of the world, if we accept the land of Oz, where perhaps its value is equaled in the famous Emerald City. Hi, Rahul. Hi, Powder. Hello, hello. And hi, Floral. Our friends were so amazed at the sight that for a while they stood gazing in silent wonder. Then Shaggy exclaimed, "My brother, my dear lost brother, is he indeed a prisoner in this place?"
"Yes," replied Calico. "The ugly one has been here for 2 or 3 years, to my positive knowledge." "But what would he find to eat?" inquired Betsy. "Well, it's an awfully swell place to live in, but one can't breakfast on rubies and diamonds, or even gold."
Oh my goodness, Scott. Scott, thank you so much for those 500 biddies. That is so kind of you. Thank you. That's really sweet. Thank you, thank you.
"Oh, one doesn't need to, my dear," Calico assured her. "The metal forest does not fill all of this great cavern by any means. Well, beyond these gold and silver trees are other trees of the real sort, which bear foods very nice to eat. Let us walk in that direction, for I am quite sure we will find Shaggy's brother in that part of the cavern, rather than in this."
So they began to tramp over the diamond-pebbled paths, and at every step they were more and more bewildered by the wondrous beauty of the golden trees with their glittering foliage. Suddenly, they heard a scream. Jewels scattered in every direction as someone hidden among the bushes scampered away before them. Then a loud voice called, "Halt!" and there was the sound of a struggle. End of chapter. Oh my goodness. Oof. This, honestly, that sounds beautiful. Artax, thank you for the 100 biddies. Thank you. Oh, Sean, thanks for popping that message in the YouTube chat. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's dive into the next chapter. Chapter 21, A Bashful Brother. With fast-beating hearts, they all rushed forward, and beyond a group of stately metal trees, came full upon a most astonishing scene. Thanks for the lurk, Milu. Hello, hello. There was Ruggedo, in the hands of the officers of Oogaboo, a dozen of whom were clinging to the old gnome and holding him fast in spite of his efforts to escape. There also was Queen Anne, looking grimly upon the scene of strife, but when she observed her former companions approaching, she turned away in a shamefaced manner. For Anne and her officers were indeed a sight to behold. Her Majesty's clothing, once so rich and gorgeous, was now worn and torn into shreds by her long crawl through the tunnel, which, by the way, had led her directly into the metal forest. It was indeed one of the 3 secret passages, and by far the most difficult of the 3. Anne had not only torn her pretty skirt and jacket, but Her crown had become bent and battered, and even her shoes were so cut and slashed that they were ready to fall from her feet. Artax, thank you for gifting a sub to Blondie. Thank you. That's so kind of you. The officers had fared somewhat worse than their leader, for holes were worn in the knees of their trousers, while sharp points of rock in the roof and sides of the tunnel had made rags of every inch of their once brilliant uniforms. A more tattered and woeful army never came out of a battle than these harmless victims of the rocky passage. But it had seemed their only means of escape from the cruel Gnome King, so they had crawled on, regardless of their sufferings. Artax, thank you for the 200 biddies, and also for another gift sub to Vaporwave. Thank you. And hi, Vaporwave. It's good to see you. And Johnny, thank you for that 7-stream streak. Oh my goodness. And, oh my gosh, Scott with the 1,000 biddies. Scott. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Damn. We got a proper hype train going on over here. Thank you, guys. Best online book club ever? Heck yeah. When they reached the metal forest, their eyes beheld more plunder than they had ever dreamed of. Yet they were prisoners in this huge dome and could not escape with the riches heaped about them. Perhaps a more unhappy and homesick lot of conquerors never existed than this band from Ukapoo. After several days of wandering in their marvelous prison, they were frightened by the discovery that Ruggedo had come among them. Rendered desperate by their sad condition, the officers exhibited courage for the first time since they left home, and ignorant of the fact that Ruggedo was no longer king of the gnomes, they threw themselves upon him and had just succeeded in capturing him when their fellow adventurers reached the spot. "Good gracious," cried Betsy. "What has happened to you all?" Anne came forward to greet them, sorrowful and indignant. "We were obliged to escape from the pit through a small tunnel, which was lined with sharp and jagged rocks," said she. "And not only was our clothing torn to rags, but our flesh is so bruised and sore that we are stiff and lame in every joint. To add to our troubles, we find we are still prisoners. But now that we have succeeded in capturing the wicked metal monarch, we shall force him to grant us our liberty." Ruggedo is no longer metal monarch, or king of the gnomes, Files informed her. "He's been deposed and cast out of his kingdom by Quox. But here is the new king, whose name is Calico, and I am pleased to assure your majesty that he is our friend." "Glad to meet your majesty, I'm sure," said Calico, bowing as courteously as if the queen still wore splendid raiment. The officers, having heard this explanation, now set Ruggedo free, but as he had no place to go, he stood by and faced his former servant, who was now king in his place, in a humble and pleading manner. "What are you doing here?" asked Calico sternly.
"I was promised as much treasure as I could carry in my pockets," replied Ruggedo. "So I came here to get it, not wishing to disturb your majesty."
"You were condemned to leave the country of the gnomes forever," declared Calico.
"I know, and I'll go as soon as I have filled my pockets,"
said Ruggedo meekly.
"Then fill them and be gone,"
returned the new king. Ruggedo obeyed. Stooping down, he began gathering up jewels by the handful and stuffing them into his many pockets. They were heavy things, these diamonds and rubies and emeralds and amethysts and the like. So Before long, Ruggedo was staggering with the weight he bore, while the pockets were not yet filled. When he could no longer stoop over without falling, Betsy and Polychrome and the Rose Princess came to his assistance, picking up the finest gems and tucking them into his pockets. Aw, Sean, thank you for the 200 biddies. Thank you. That's so kind. Gotta get that train ticket. At last, these were all filled, and Ruggedo presented a comical sight, for surely no man ever before had so many pockets, or any at all, filled with such a choice collection of precious stones. He neglected to thank the young ladies for their kindness, but gave them a surly nod of farewell and staggered down the path by the way he had come. They let him depart in silence, for with all he had taken, the masses of jewels upon the ground seemed scarcely to have been disturbed, so numerous were they. Also, they hoped they had seen the last of the degraded king. Hi, bruh. Hello, hello. How you doing? Oh, okay. Oh, thank you for the 100 biddies. Thank you.
I'm awful glad he's gone, said Betsy, sighing deeply. If he doesn't get reckless and spend his wealth foolishly, he's got enough to start a bank when he gets to Oklahoma.
But my brother, my dear brother, where is he?
Inquired Shaggy anxiously.
Have you seen him, Queen Anne?
What does your brother look like? Asked the Queen. Shaggy hesitated to reply, but Betsy said,
He's called the Ugly One. Perhaps you'll know him by that?
Bitch. The only person we have seen in this cavern, said Anne, has run away from us whenever we approached him. He hides over yonder, among the trees that are not gold. We have never been able to catch sight of his face, so I cannot tell whether he is ugly or not.
Oh, that must be my dear brother,
exclaimed Shaggy.
Yes, it must be, assented Calico. No one else inhabits this splendid dome, so there can be no mistake. But why hide among those green trees instead of enjoying all these glittery golden ones? Asked Betsy.
He's already explained. Betsy, stop being so dumb.
Well, because he finds food among the natural trees, replied Calico. And I remember that he has built a little house there to sleep in. As for these glittery golden trees, I will admit they're very pretty at first sight. One cannot fail to admire them, as well as the rich jewels scattered beneath them. But if one has to look at them always, they become pretty tame.
I believe that is true, declared Shaggy. My dear brother is very wise to prefer real trees to the imitation ones. But come, let us go there and find him.
Too much, you. Welcome in. Hello. Welcome. How you doing?
Yes, Nim? What's up? Are you okay?
Shaggy started for the green grove at once, and the others followed him, being curious to witness the final rescue of his long-sought, long-lost brother. Not far from the edge of the grove, they came upon a small hut, cleverly made of twigs and golden branches woven together. As they approached the place, they caught a glimpse of a form that darted into the hut and slammed the door tight shut after him. Shaggy Man ran to the door and cried aloud,
Brother! Brother!
How am I going to do his brother's voice?
Who calls? I'm the Shaggy Man's brother. I'm the Shaggy Man.
Well, it describes his voice as sad and hollow. So,
I thought this might be a sad, hollow voice. And kind of ugly, too.
okay, cool.
Brother, who calls?
Demanded a sad, hollow voice from within.
We Shaggy, your own loving brother, who's been searching for you a long time, and has now come to rescue you.
Do you guys not have names? His name isn't Shaggy. People called him the Shaggy Man because his clothes were so destroyed, and then after Ozma took him in and basically made him, like, nobility, she just, like, made all his really nice rich clothes also shaggy, which I just picture him wearing a lot of fringe. Just, like, velvet fringe. But, like, Shaggy is not his name, and he says that it's been so long since he's seen his brother that he doesn't even remember what he looks like. But, like, that... Like, how would he know who he's talking about? Christ. Okay.
And has now come to rescue you. Too late,
Replied the gloomy voice.
no one can rescue me now.
Oh, but you're mistaken about that, said Shaggy. There's a new king of the gnomes, named Calico, in Rugado's place, and he has promised you shall go free.
Free? I dare not go free.
Said the ugly one, in a voice of despair.
Why not, brother?
Asked Shaggy anxiously.
Do you know what they have done to me?
Came the answer through the closed door.
No. Tell me, brother, what have they done?
When Rugado first captured me, I was very handsome. Don't you remember, Shaggy?
Not very well, brother. You were so young when I left home. But I remember that mother thought you were beautiful.
She was right. I am sure she was right.
Wailed the prisoner.
But Rugado wanted to injure me, to make me ugly in the eyes of the world. So he performed a wicked enchantment. I went to bed beautiful, or you might say handsome. To be very modest, I will merely claim that I was good-looking. And I wakened the next morning, the homeliest man in all the world. I am so repulsive that when I look in a mirror, I frighten myself.
Oh, poor brother, said Shaggy softly, and all the others were silent from sympathy.
I was so ashamed of my looks,
Continued the voice of Shaggy's brother.
I tried to hide, but the cruel King Rugado forced me to appear before all the legion of gnomes, to whom he said, "Behold the ugly one." But when the gnomes saw my face, they all fell to laughing and jeering, which prevented them from working at their tasks. Seeing this, Rugado became angry and pushed me into a tunnel, closing the rock entrance so that I could not get out. I followed the length of the tunnel until I reached this huge dome, where the marvelous metal forest stands, and here I have remained ever since.
Poor brother, repeated Shaggy. But I beg you now to come forth and face us, who are your friends. No one here will laugh or jeer.
however unhandsome you may be.
No, indeed, they all added pleadingly. But the ugly one refused the invitation.
I cannot, said he. Indeed, I cannot face strangers, ugly as I am.
Bro, just put a bag over your head. I don't know.
Shaggy Man turned to the group surrounding him.
What shall I do? He asked in sorrowful tones. I cannot leave my dear brother here, and he refuses to come out of that house and face us.
I'll tell you, replied Betsy. Let him put on a mask.
Oh, the very idea I was seeking,
exclaimed Shaggy joyfully, and then he called out,
Brother, put a mask over your face, and then none of us can see what your features are like. I have no mask, answered the ugly one.
Look here, said Betsy. He can use my handkerchief. Shaggy looked at the little square of cloth and shook his head.
Oh, it isn't big enough, he objected. Well, I'm sure it isn't big enough to hide a man's face, but he can use mine.
Saying this, he took from his pocket his own handkerchief and went to the door of the hut.
I hope it's not like full of boogers. I hope it's a clean handkerchief.
Here, my brother, he called. Take this handkerchief and make a mask of it. I will also pass you my knife, so that you may cut holes for the eyes, and then you must tie it over your face.
The door slowly opened, just far enough for the ugly one to thrust out his hand and take the handkerchief and the knife. Then it closed again. Don't forget a hole for your nose, cried Betsy. You must breathe, you know. For a time, there was silence. Queen Anne and her army sat down upon the ground to rest. Betsy sat on Hank's back. Polychrome danced lightly up and down the jeweled paths, while Files and the princess wandered through the groves, arm in arm. Tik-Tok, who never tired, stood motionless. By and by, a noise sounded from within the hut.
Are you ready?
asked Shaggy.
Yes, brother,
came the reply, and the door was thrown open to allow the ugly one to step forth. Betsy might have laughed aloud had she not remembered how sensitive to ridicule Shaggy's brother was, for the handkerchief with which he had masked his features was a red one covered with big white polka dots. In this, 2 holes had been cut in front of the eyes, while 2 smaller ones before the nostrils allowed the man to breathe freely. The cloth was then tightly drawn over the ugly one's face and knotted at the back of his neck. He was dressed in clothes that had once been good, but now were sadly worn and frayed. His silk stockings had holes in them, and his shoes were stub-toed and needed blackening. But what can you expect, whispered Betsy, when the poor man has been a prisoner for so many years? Shaggy had darted forward and embraced his newly found brother with both his arms. The brother also embraced Shaggy, who then led him forward and introduced him to all the assembled company.
Well, this is the new Gnome King,
he said when he came to Calico.
He is our friend, and has granted you your freedom. That is a kindly deed,
replied Ugly in a sad voice. I'm sorry, they're just calling him Ugly? Not even the ugly one. It's just capitalized Ugly as a name. Shaggy and Ugly? Did their mother not name them? Like, what? How do they not have names? That's crazy. Even the Tin Man has a name. Nick Chopper.
Even the Gnome King, he had 2 names. He used to be Roquat the Red, and now he's Ruggido the Metal Monarch. Like, come on. Okay.
That is a kindly deed, replied Ugly in a sad voice, but I dread to go back to the world in this direful condition. Unless I remain forever masked, my dreadful face would curdle all the milk and stop all the clocks.
Can't the enchantment be broken in some way? Inquired Betsy.
Shaggy looked anxiously at Calico, who shook his head.
Well, I'm sure I can't break the enchantment, he said. Ruggido was fond of magic and learned a good many enchantments that we gnomes know nothing of.
Well, perhaps Ruggido himself might break his own enchantment, suggested Anne.
But unfortunately, we've allowed the old king to escape.
And also, he can't do magic anymore.
Never mind, my dear brother, said Shaggy consolingly. I'm very happy to have found you again, although I may never see your face. So let us make the most of this joyful reunion.
The Ugly One was affected to tears by this tender speech, and the tears began to wet the red handkerchief. So Shaggy gently wiped them away with his coat sleeve. Through the wouldn't that just be pressing the handkerchief onto his face? End of chapter. Hi, damn Dan. Yes, that is exactly right. Oh, you think Shaggy might give Ugly the love magnet? Or Glinda could do something, or Ozma could use the fucking belt that can do anything, and just, I don't know. Crazy. Sussy Mind Control could have been the free square in our Oz Bingo. Yeah. Okay. There are 4 chapters left. I don't think we're gonna finish reading it tonight. We'll finish on Thursday. So the question is, do we read 1 more tonight and 3 on Thursday, or do we read 4 on Thursday? What do you guys think? So Bill is the best? I mean, true, Bill is the best, but Bill hasn't been in the book yet. Yeah, we've still got things. I bet in the next few chapters there will be pointless cameos. Okay? Because they're probably, just with how these books go, they're probably going to return to the Emerald City, and there will be people there. So we're probably going to get that. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I can't believe Hank let us down. He did not talk. Hank was supposed to be the new talking animal. Someone might remember and use the goddamn belt. Bomb is so over this shit definitely could be argued. Casual kidnapping could be argued. Ozma's a shitty ruler could be argued. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so we're gonna read 1 more tonight, and then we'll read the 3 last chapters on Thursday. Palm writes his way into a corner. That's a good one. We could do that next for the next Oz book. Okay. Chapter 22. Kindly Kisses. Oh no, is she gonna kiss the Ugly One and make him pretty again? Okay, Sean, sounds good. Thank you for hanging out and helping. I hope you have a wonderful sleep tonight. Good night, good night.
Won't you be dreadful sorry to leave this lovely place?
Betsy asked the ugly one.
No, indeed, said he. Jewels and gold are cold and heartless things, and I am sure I would presently have died of loneliness had I not found this natural forest at the edge of the artificial one. Anyhow, without these real trees, I should soon have starved to death.
Betsy looked around at the quaint trees. I don't just understand that, she admitted. What could you find to eat here?
The best food in the world,
Ugly answered.
Do you see that grove at your left?
He added, pointing it out.
Well, such trees as those do not grow in your country, or in any other place but this cavern. I have named them hotel trees, because they bear a certain kind of table d'hôte fruit called three-course nuts.
That's funny, said Betsy. What are the three-course nuts like?
Something like cocoa nuts to look at,
explained the ugly one.
All you have to do is to pick one of them and then sit down and eat your dinner. You first unscrew the top part and find a cupful of good soup. After you've eaten that, you unscrew the middle part and find a hollow filled with meat and potatoes, vegetables, and a fine salad. Eat that and unscrew the next section, and you come to the dessert in the bottom of the nut. That is pie and cake, cheese and crackers, and nuts and raisins. The three-course nuts are not all exactly alike in flavor or in contents, but they're all good, and in each one may be found a complete three-course dinner.
What's the name for those? They're usually like metal dishes and they stack on top of each other, and there's usually like a handle that goes over that, and so you keep like your courses stacked. There's a name for that. Do you know what I'm talking about? For like bringing a meal with you somewhere. Yeah, I know the word for it, but I haven't. Not a lunchbox. It's like a specific kind of. They're often metal and they stack, so you'll have like 3 of them on top of each other with a long handle that kind of clicks into place so that they stay closed. Not a thermos. Gosh, that's gonna bother me until I remember. Not a bento box. A bento box is like flat and has different compartments. I keep thinking ramekin, but that's not right because ramekins are something different. But they're like, yeah. Gosh. That's gonna bother me. A tiffin. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like it's like used in India a lot, but I wasn't sure. But it looks like, yeah, I think it is used often in India. Tiffin boxes, tiffin trays. Yeah. Anyways, they're useful. Okay. But how about breakfasts? Inquired Betsy.
Well, there are breakfast trees for that, which grow over there at the right. They bear nuts, like the others, only the nuts contain coffee or chocolate instead of soup, oatmeal instead of meat and potatoes, and fruits instead of dessert. Sad as has been my life in this Wonderful prison. I must admit that no one could live more luxuriously in the best hotel in the world than I have lived here. But I will be glad to get into the open air again and see the good old sun and the silvery moon and the soft green grass and the flowers that are kissed by the morning dew. Ah, how much more lovely are those blessed things than the glitter of gems or the cold gleam of gold.
I'm not making it up. Look it up. Look up tiffin trays or bowls.
Of course, said Betsy. I once knew a little boy who wanted to catch the measles because all the little boys in his neighborhood but him had him, and he was really unhappy because he couldn't catch him, try as he would. So I'm pretty sure that the things we want and can't have are not good for us. Isn't that true, Shaggy?
No, you idiot.
No, I'm sorry.
Not always, my dear, he gravely replied. If we didn't want anything, we would never get anything, good or bad. I think our longings are natural, and if we act as nature prompts us, we can't go far wrong.
For my part, said Queen Anne, I think the world would be a dreary place without the gold and jewels.
Well, things are good in that way, said Shaggy, but we may have too much of any good thing. When I've noticed that the value of anything depends upon how scarce it is, and how difficult it is to obtain.
Pardon me for interrupting you, said King Calico, coming to their side, but now that we've rescued Shaggy's brother, I would like to return to my royal cavern. Being the king of the gnomes, it is my duty to look after my restless subjects and see that they behave themselves.
So they all turned and began walking through the metal forest to the other side of the great domed cave where they had first entered it. Shaggy and his brother walked side by side, and both seemed rejoiced that they were together after their long separation. Betsy didn't dare look at the polka-dot handkerchief for fear that she would laugh aloud, so she walked behind the two brothers and led Hank by holding fast to his left ear. What the hell, man? That sounds rude. When at last they reached the place where the passage led to the outer world, Queen Anne said, in a hesitating way that was unusual with her, I have not conquered this gnome country, nor do I expect to do so, but I would like to gather a few of these pretty jewels before I leave the place.
Help yourself, ma'am, said King Calico,
and at once the officers of the army took advantage of his royal permission and began filling their pockets, while Anne tied a lot of diamonds in a big handkerchief. This accomplished, they all entered the passage, the gnomes going first to light the way with their torches. They had not proceeded far when Betsy exclaimed,
Why, there are jewels here, too.
All eyes were turned upon the ground, and they found a regular trail of jewels strewn along the rock floor.
This is queer,
said Calico, much surprised.
I must send some of my gnomes to gather up these gems and replace them in the metal forest, where they belong. I wonder how they came to be here.
All the way along the passage, they found this trail of jewels. But when they neared the end, the mystery was explained. For there, squatted upon the floor with his back to the rock wall, sat old Ruggedo, puffing and blowing as if he was all tired out. Then they realized it was he who had scattered the jewels from his many pockets, which one by one had burst with the weight of their contents as he had stumbled along the passage.
but I don't mind, said Ruggedo with a deep sigh. I now realize I could not have carried such a weighty load very far, even had I managed to escape from this passage with it. The woman who sewed the pockets on my robe used poor thread, for which I shall thank her.
Have you any jewels left?
inquired Betsy. He glanced into some of the remaining pockets.
A few, said he, but they will be sufficient to supply my wants, and I no longer have any desire to be rich. If some of you will kindly help me to rise, I'll get out of here and leave you, for I know you all despise me and prefer my room to my company.
Shaggy and Calico raised the old king to his feet when he was confronted by Shaggy's brother, whom he now noticed for the first time. The queer and unexpected appearance of the ugly one so startled Ruggedo that he gave a wild cry and began to tremble as if he had seen a ghost. Artax, thank you for gifting a sub to Lovebell. Thank you.
Who is this?
He faltered.
I am that helpless prisoner whom your cruel magic transformed from a handsome man into an ugly one,
answered Shaggy's brother in a voice of stern reproach.
Really, Ruggedo, said Betsy, you ought to be ashamed of that mean trick.
I am, my dear,
admitted Ruggedo, who was now as meek and humble as formerly he had been cruel and vindictive.
Then, returned the girl, you'd better do some more magic and give the poor man his own face again.
I wish I could,
answered the old king.
But you must remember that Tititi Hochu had deprived me of all my magic powers. However, I never took the trouble to learn just how to break the charm I cast over Shaggy's brother, for I intended he should always remain ugly.
Hey, Bite Guy, welcome back. I like how you said I find your voice very soothing while I was doing Ruggedo's voice. I hope you're doing well.
Every charm, remarked pretty Polychrome, has its antidote. And if you knew this charm of ugliness, Ruggedo, you must have known how to dispel it.
He shook his head.
If I did, I've forgotten,
he stammered regretfully.
Oh, try to think,
pleaded Shaggy anxiously.
Please, try to think.
Ruggedo ruffled his hair with both hands, sighed, slapped his chest, rubbed his ear, and stared stupidly around the group.
I've a faint recollection that there was one thing that would break the charm, said he, but misfortune has addled my brain so that I can't remember what it was.
Now see here, Ruggedo, said Betsy sharply. We've treated you pretty well so far, but we won't stand for any nonsense. And if you know what's good for yourself, you'll think of that charm.
Why?
He demanded, turning to look wonderingly at the little girl.
Because it means so much to Shaggy's brother. He's dreadfully ashamed of himself, the way he is now, and you're to blame for it. Fact is, Ruggedo, you've done so much wickedness in your life that it won't hurt you to do a kind act now.
Ruggedo blinked at her and sighed again, and then tried very hard to think. Slipknot Man, oh my goodness, thank you for the resub. 9 months. Twitch baby. How you doing, Slipknot? It's good to see you. You gotta go, just want to stop by and say hi. Oh, well, thanks for popping in to say hi, Bike Guy.
I seem to remember dimly, said he, that a certain kind of kiss will break the charm of ugliness.
What kind of a kiss?
What kind? Well, it was either the kiss of a mortal maid, or the kiss of a mortal maid who had once been a fairy, or the kiss of one who is still a fairy. I can't remember which, but of course no maid, mortal or fairy, would ever consent to kiss a person so ugly, so dreadfully, fearfully, terribly ugly as Shaggy's brother.
I'm not so sure of that, said Betsy with admirable courage. I'm a mortal maid, and if it is my kiss that will break this awful charm, I'll do it.
Oh, you really couldn't, protested Ugly. I would be obliged to remove my mask, and when you saw my face, nothing could induce you to kiss me, generous as you are.
Well, as for that, said the little girl, I needn't see your face at all. Here's my plan. You stay in this dark passage, and we'll send away the gnomes with their torches. Then you'll take off the handkerchief, and I'll kiss you.
Please let this be a cheek kiss and not have this underage girl have to mouth kiss this old man. Let's, I mean, it was never actually fully established how old Betsy is, but, she's a child, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Oh, this is awfully kind of you, Betsy,
said Shaggy gratefully. Watch him have to be kissed by all the girls, because Betsy's a mortal maid, Polychrome is a fairy, and Ozga, the Rose Princess, is kind of a fairy that is kicked out, so she's kind of, like, mortal now. Yeah, how creepy will Bomb make this? Okay.
Well, it surely won't kill me, she replied. And if it makes you and your brother happy, I'm willing to take some chances.
So, Calico ordered the torchbearers to leave the passage, which they did by going through the rock opening. Queen Anne and her army also went out, but the others were so interested in Betsy's experiment that they remained grouped at the mouth of the passageway. When the big rock swung into place, closing tight the opening, they were left in total darkness.
Now then, called Betsy in a cheerful voice. Have you got that handkerchief off your face, Ugly?
Stop calling him ugly, like, that's not his name. So rude. Like, who else would you be talking to? You didn't have to call him ugly in that moment. You could have just, like, okay.
Yes, he replied.
Well, where are you then? She asked,
reaching out her arms. I don't like this, guys.
Here,
said he.
You'll have to stoop down, you know.
They just keep calling him ugly, like, ironically after the fact. Yeah, this is like 7 minutes in heaven. This is so creepy. He found her hands and, clasping them in his own, stooped until his face was near to that of the little girl. The others heard a clear, smacking kiss, and then Betsy exclaimed,
There! I've done it, and it didn't hurt a bit.
Oh, tell me, dear brother, is the charm broken?
asked Shaggy.
I do not know,
Was the reply.
It may be, or it may not be. I can't tell.
Well, has anyone a match?
Inquired Betsy.
Well, I have several,
said Shaggy.
Then let Ruggedo strike one of them and look at your brother's face. Well, we all turn our backs. Ruggedo made your brother ugly, so I guess he can stand the horror of looking at him, if the charm isn't broken.
Agreeing to this, Ruggedo took the match and lighted it. He gave one look and then blew out the match.
Ugly as ever, he said with a shudder. So it wasn't the kiss of a mortal maid after all.
Let me try, proposed the Rose Princess in her sweet voice. I am a mortal maid who was once a fairy. Perhaps my kiss will break the charm. Files did not wholly approve of this, but he was too generous to interfere. This is fucked up, you guys. So the Rose Princess felt her way through the darkness to Shaggy's brother and kissed him. Why is she no longer a fairy? She got kicked out of her kingdom because she's not a man. They didn't want a girl ruling them. I don't know. I don't know why that made her mortal. At least I get the feeling that the Rose Princess is like a young woman as opposed to a little girl. At least. But I bet you anything this is not going to work, and then Polychrome's going to have to kiss him, and Polychrome is a girl. Although she's a fairy girl, so she's like probably lived for like a long time, but she's a girl. That's weird, she's a flower. I don't know. Because the flowers in the greenhouse, the roses in the greenhouse that had faces in them were like potted. Yes, they grew her. She is like a plant person, but she's ambulatory. They're not, Files isn't carrying her around in a pot, you know? So she is like a plant person that grew, but I feel like she looks more like a person than like just the roses. Yeah. I'm kind of picturing her, like, you know, in Guild Wars 2, the Sylvari that grow out of plants. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, she is old enough to rule, yeah. Anyway. And she's obviously, like, in a relationship with Files. Yeah, she's young as a plant, but I don't know. Her life cycle, I feel like she's, like, more mature, whereas Polychrome, who's probably, like, hundreds of years old, is still, like, a child, I feel. Anyway. So, the Rose Princess felt her way through the darkness to Shaggy's brother and kissed him. Ruggedo struck another match while they all turned away.
"Nope,"
announced the former king.
"That didn't break the charm either. It must be the kiss of a fairy that is required, or else my memory has failed me altogether."
Polly,
said Betsy pleadingly.
won't you try?
Of course I will, answered Polychrome with a merry laugh.
I've never kissed a mortal man in all the thousands of years I've existed.
Okay, I estimated a few hundred, apparently thousands. Okay.
But I'll do it to please our faithful Shaggy man, whose unselfish affection for his ugly brother deserves to be rewarded.
Even as Polychrome was speaking, she tripped lightly to the side of the ugly one and quickly touched his lip. Oh, no, wait. And quickly touched his cheek with her lips. Oh, good. It wasn't a mouth kiss.
"Oh, thank you,
He fervently cried.
I've changed this time, I know. I can feel it. I'm different. Shaggy, dear Shaggy, I'm myself again."
Files, who was near the opening, touched the spring that released the big rock, and it suddenly swung backward and let in a flood of daylight. I know they said that he's, like, handsome. I don't know, is anyone else picturing him, like, like, you know, at the end of Beauty and the Beast, when the Beast is, like, a man, and they tried to make him just, like, really pretty, but it's so uncanny that it's, like, ah. I'm just picturing Ugly standing there looking like the Beast is a man.
There's not a picture yet, no. We'll see if there is.
Everyone stood motionless, staring hard at Shaggy's brother, who, no longer masked by the polka dot handkerchief, met their gaze with a glad smile. "Well," said Shaggy Man, breaking the silence at last and drawing a long, deep breath of satisfaction. "You're still but ugly, my brother." "Well, you're no longer the ugly one, my dear brother. But, to be entirely frank with you, the face that belongs to you is no more handsome than it ought to be."
Wow, I was just joking, but he actually kind of said that. Can you imagine?
It's just like, well,
You're okay, like, you're better than a monster. Christ.
I think he's rather good-looking, remarked Betsy, gazing at the man critically. In comparison with what he was, said King Calico, he's really beautiful. You, who never beheld his ugliness, may not understand that, but it was my misfortune to look at the ugly one many times, and I say again that, in comparison with what he was, the man is now beautiful. All right, returned Betsy briskly. We'll take your word for it, Calico. And now, let us get out of this tunnel and into the world again.
And that is the end of the chapter and the end of our reading for the night. We've got 3 chapters left, and we will read those on Thursday. That's just crazy, though. Like, what is that logic as well? Like, you could say that about anyone, like, compared to... Anyways, if we hadn't already checked off people being mean for no reason, I'd be checking it off now. Do we tick off Bomb is over this shit? He didn't even bother to name the brothers. I kind of want to... Should we wait, though? Because maybe they're like, well, what do we call you now? You know? Let's maybe wait. We'll remember this. We'll hold off. Because maybe they'll be sitting around and be like, well, we can't call you ugly anymore. Like, what's your actual name? Maybe. We'll see how it goes. Okay, Fidge, totally fine. Fidge, thank you for helping out. Have a wonderful sleep. Thank you, thank you. Okay. You guys. Yeah, just call him average. Can we have a poll next time for whether they keep calling him ugly? Yes, we can do that. Yeah, okay, so we will be, are there I didn't see any. No. Oh, wait. Yeah, no. Not of ugly. Which is crazy. Okay. Alright, so I will be back live on this YouTube channel on Thursday night. We will be finishing this book. Will we get a bingo? Because we've only got 3 chapters left. We better get a bingo. I'm not ending my stream quite yet. We will be continuing on Twitch, maybe going live on the other YouTube channel. Hold on. Yeah. So, if you are interested in a little bit more content, if you'd like to stick around for some ASMR and cozy hangout, it probably won't be super long because this is actually my second stream of the day. We did a co-working stream on Twitch this afternoon, so I usually don't go as late on Tuesday nights. But yeah, make sure that you are following me on Twitch
and sub to my other YouTube channel where I do ASMR triggers. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, make sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching and helping me out with my watch hours, and hopefully I will see you next time on Thursday. Stick around on Twitch, you guys, but I'm just ending on YouTube. Bye, YouTube. Bye, YouTube.